emotional connection to things. It has nothing to do with logic. Although I do like to temper with logic. So I have to like take a step back and think about it. Yeah? Oh, hello. Are we doing that? Do it. I'm good. That was the intro. See, we planned it and then I purposely ruined it for summer because that's what I do. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. Today, we're painting up Elektra. I am super stoked for this. I've been talking so much about Shadowland, Daredevil, and Elektra, and I just love that story and just that kind of street level superheroes and stuff like that. And I think that this miniature really captures a lot of flair, kinetic energy, and excitement that is possible with plastic miniatures and just with comic book characters in general. So I went in and airbrushed her with some red, but who knows what we'll end up with. Maybe we'll just go into a black costume to match the Shadowland theme a little bit better, because I'm going to be summoning a ton of ninjas, just as many ninjas as I can, which is only one base worth. But in my dreams, I can just summon more. I'll just make a rule for myself when I play against Pagani. Just against Pagani, I'll just make up my own rules. So if we want to kick it over to the minicam, I'm going to get started. Oh, it's a little dark. There we go. Yeah, Elektra. Or electric nachos. So let's just kind of make something up. I got a little red, I got a little black, I got a little umber, I got some purple, I got a bunch of colors out on the palette. I'm just mixing up something random, 2 or 3, and we're just going to see what kind of, where our emotions and art takes us today. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for hanging out. Let's have fun and paint some miniatures. I'm using apparently also the largest brush in the world. I've got like a size 5 in my hand and a size 3 because rarely do I pay attention. So I'm using that second brush, as we've learned, which is a wonderful tool. Damp to soften those edges and pull them out ever so slightly. So I'm very much controlling where the paint goes and how it affects the shadows and highlights. And that's what we really, really want. Yeah, currently with the way we're working the office and being careful with everybody in the office and restrictions, we stream on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we alternate between all the different games we play. Make, produce, create, whatever word you want to use there. Which means today you get Elektra. Show us the card. I don't have the card with me. Who needs a card when you got a swift kick to the face like this? I mean, if anybody's going to kick you right in the chops, it's going to be Elektra. I think I might go into black on this. I don't know. Chat, talk to me. I'm putting in some shadows. Shadows, this initial shadow is just creating a little contrast for the red. Just building up some tone. We can go deep red We can go just red, red. We can take the shadows down to black and make it like a black red to really bring that Shadowland assassin feel to it. Let's take some votes. What is chat feeling? Where is your heart telling you to go today? I feel like Summer's in there laughing at me. She's like, do you hear how this guy talks? How sharp are those shuriken? I mean, if I was bullseye, they'd be really sharp. But for me, they're not. They're not sharp. They're pretty sharp. They're appropriately sharp. I don't know. I like the purple shadows. You need to know what characters to add to a criminal syndicate separation anxiety crew. Oh. Blackwood Math Daredevil? Like math like Meshuggah? Like the band? Is Elektra math core? Is that what I'm hearing? How many time signatures do you hear when Elektra kicks your head? And can Danny Carey keep up? Look.
It's over.
I love I started talking about math rock and I look over and Tony's like looking up from his coffee like yes, tell me more about this. Yeah, I feel like Elektra kicks you and you hear like 4 time signatures. Like just she kicks you so hard you stumble to the ground in Fibonacci like time pattern. I'm going to add a little black. Let's go black and I'm going to add more purple because I like Shane by the way said purple and then we got some black. So I think let's bring that together. Let's bring purple and black together into our shadows. A criminal syndicate separation anxiety crew. I don't think I'm not the right person to ask because I'd be like, who's cool? Because that's typically how I build a list. I know Schick and Pagani were recently on one of the podcasts talking about how they build rosters. And I'm definitely in the I start with what's cool to me that day kind of camp. I mean, the first question is, can I take Dormammu? And then the second question is, can I take Crossbones? Because I don't know if anybody's watched those last couple of stream games where I'm just beating the brakes off Pagani with Crossbones using Smash and a mailbox. So this is slowly building in. I'm not trying to rush. So we go with all red. No, I'm building into black slowly. I want to create a black red. I don't want to just be black. I don't want to be just red. I want to play in between those lines. To kind of show like maybe her costume was red, paying homage to the costume, and she's bringing it toward black to show that Shadowland sort of influence. So right now we got a little purple, a little black, a little red. Yeah, thanks, Shane. I think the purple tones are going to bridge that gap and tie, really tie the room together. You don't want it to go. You don't want to get abrupt. You need those transitional. You need those transitional elements to really create a full dynamic effect. Mailbox haymaker of doom. That's what I'm about. I'm about bringing that mailbox to the face. With our boy Crossbones. Just working my way around it. Taking our time. Pondering the paint. Last week, Summer said after a stream that she got super excited to head home and paint. So hopefully that's true this week. Did you paint, Summer?
I still need to glue quite a few of the miniatures together, but I was definitely inspired.
Well, we're gonna have to do a paint jam. Get you gluing.
Yes.
Don't worry, Elektra will get painted the appropriate colors. Did a little airbrush to get that first layer red on there. If you have an airbrush, it's a really great tool to get some of those trick colors like red or yellow kind of started for you. By all means or by no means, completely unnecessary. But it can speed up the process. And by speed up the process, I mean you'll get paint on the miniature and then spend an hour cleaning the airbrush. And 70 hours learning airbrush videos, or watching airbrush videos. Tony knows. See, now I'm thinking Criminal Syndicate list, and I'm like, Elektra, Shaolin Daredevil, Brock Rumlow. All right, now I'm just adding way more black. Yeah, sometimes it's just worth it to get those base coats down, like just those first layers. I've been doing a lot of interesting stuff with like laying a zenith, like not even a zenith prime, like I prime a miniature. So like let's say the Hulk. I think the Hulk is a great example of something you can do here. Is like you prime the Hulk, and then if you have an airbrush, and hopefully we can figure out how to do an airbrush on stream sometime. I know we've mentioned it a couple times. So hopefully we can grok that out and make that work sometime. But then base coat with the airbrush something like a magenta or purple or something similar, and then bring a green tone over top of that. In a zenithal manner. And it just gives you this wonderful starting place to build all the other colors off of, right? So if you want to do washes or glazes, it just gives you this wonderful starting point to build those next layers off of. Even with just washes, like if you did a wash over a two-tone zenith instead of white and black zenith, you actually get a more dynamic color. It creates more transition and contrast and visual interest for the eye. So there's some really fun stuff to be had there. One brick. I just finished my Sanctum last night. Can't even imagine trying to do it without airbrush. Yeah, I did mine with airbrush. We did videos on that, and they were a little loud. But they were also done from my apartment. So maybe now that we're in a studio, we can start figuring that out a little bit more. Tony, Summer, what do you think? Yeah? I'm not looking up, but I assume they're giving me a thumbs up. They're like, totally. Totally. Come on, chat, hit me with them questions. I'm just sitting here painting. I got plenty of time. Wild Star, thank you so much. Yeah, everybody worked on this. I think did a fantastic job. So sculpted by Dave Kidd, who, if you follow the credits in the Marvel Crisis Protocol credits, you'll see his name pop up quite a bit. And this was done off of a post concept that I drew. And it was one of those ones that's just like, can we? Can we? Have we gone too far? Are we flying too high? And then, of course, we go to the engineers. We go to Marco and Evan. And they look at it with their very serious engineer eyes. They're like, we can do it. And then we get sculpted, and then we have to engineer it. I think Evan engineered this, which he did a fantastic job, breaking all the parts down and making it a very easy build. And then got the studio version painted by one Mr. Brendan Roy, who, once again, if you look at the studio or the credits, you'll see his name pop up quite a bit. Fabric Caribou, do you think it's easier to start with red and paint the... I don't think it's easier necessarily to start with the red was there to make the cloth easier. I don't struggle with skin tones, so I don't really care if I have to lay a base layer of skin tone down, or 2 or 3. So it doesn't really bother me if I have to do a little extra work to make the flesh look right. I'd rather spend extra time on the flesh anyways. But I typically have red mixed into skin tone anyways. If you watch any of the streams, if you watch any of the mini extravaganzas, how to paint that I do, you will see quite often there's a lot of red mixed into the flesh tones. So this does kind of create like that undertone to work from. So you're getting some free stuff out of that red undertone. You're getting some lifting done for free, if you so chose to use it. Yeah, you gotta fly high. You can't learn without failing. That's one thing I always taught my kid. You never learn by winning. You never learn by winning. You gotta try stuff, and then you gotta learn why it failed, and you have to ask the question. You gotta be brave enough to get back up on that bicycle and do it all over again. Just try it again. All of our sculpting is done in 3D. That's not really secret. The process, I can give you a little insight to the process. Like, at what point do you want to start? Where are we starting? Yeah, fabricator. It's literally it's preference. Also, just for me, I just wanted to get that red on there, so it wasn't even really preference. If I was doing black cloth, like just straight black cloth, without the red, I didn't actually have the plan at all for this miniature. It was either going to be red or black, so there was no plan. If I had planned it in advance and was just going to be like black cloth, I would have done the classic Zenith highlight and not put any red or black into it. So it's more the in process and being adaptable. For me personally, that's just the way I work. Jesse, I'm willing to talk a little bit about that stuff if you kind of give me like a starting point. Where are we starting from that question? I love talking about this stuff. We go over quite a bit of that stuff at Main Extravaganza as well, where you hear we get Marco in and we talk about some stuff. We go over like 3D sculpting and engineering. Engineering is a very interesting part of the process. That's very difficult and takes a lot of training and understanding of miniatures and stuff like that. Yeah, that red, the skin, a lot of skin, almost every skin tone color has a warm red undertone. It's a great starting point for all the wonderful skin tones you can see in the world. God, that warmth, that life, that vibrancy. Those colors that show I am a living creature. So I'm just very thinly painting a layer of a mid-dark skin tone. She is Greek. So I want that like warm tone in there. We can get pretty moody with this piece, I think. We can have a lot of fun here. Panel play, the process of building a miniature. It all starts with an idea. Oh, we should do this right. We should do this the right way. In the beginning of time, in the way, way back future, before those who knew. So it just all starts with an idea. Usually we start with a schedule, right? We got schedule. We got really long schedule because these things take forever to make. Our timelines are super, super long. Pay attention, class. You never know what I'm going to say. This is all the information I see people ask about on Facebook, and I'm going to give it to you right now. A little bit. Starts with a schedule, and then it starts with a concept doc. The concept doc is like, this is the character, and this is kind of what they do. It's just an idea. It's like a design document, right? It's like, this is Elektra. Elektra kind of does this with her size and her ninja stars and her sweet kicks to the face. So, and then that's when we kind of work on choose the costume and the pose. And so then we just start with a pose. The pose goes through several iterations. And we draw a pose out and we discuss it with engineers. Like, I got this guy flying. What do you need to make this work, right? Like, how much connection point? We kind of talk that out a lot. And between every step, there's always approvals and discussions and stuff like that. Then we get a sculpt, like a 3D sculpt. Then we take a look at that, and we decide if there's any changes that need to be made. Like, does everything translate once it's printed, once it's in actual, real, physical, three-dimensional space, not just a render on a screen? I'm actually painting this today. Interesting. Who would have thought that this would be the direction I'd be painting? Like more watercolory and artsy. Not just smack it out in an hour. I think it'd be more fun if I slow down some and on stream. We talked a little bit about this. Anyways, because like sometimes something doesn't quite work or something doesn't quite translate, so we kind of have to work out those problems and those situations. And then we got to engineering, and the engineers have to like figure out how to chop these up, right? They're going into hard plastic, and hard plastic, of all the materials to make miniatures out of, is the least forgiving. It's the least forgiving. So if you have experience with like resin or metal, resin is very forgiving when you're making a mold. The mold literally, like, imagine this is in like a little box, and a resin mold is like made out of silicone rubber usually, and it can peel apart, so it can open up and come out from underneath what's called undercuts. In hard plastic, it's giant blocks of steel that pull directly straight out, so you have no tolerance for undercuts and draft angles. And that's a lot of times why things are cut in the way they are, is those undercuts and draft angles, those define everything. Those are the markers for everything we do. And once you learn it, you can't unsee it. I can look at a frame and typically be like, oh, this is why this was cut this way. This is why this was cut this way. And sometimes you have to like put the two pieces together, or sometimes three pieces together, to then see like why was it cut this way. But there's no tolerances. So the engineers have a very tough job. to like work through. Yeah, from production end, I love making miniatures. This is my joy. Literally dream job. It's not what I thought I was going to be when I was a kid, but you know, it's pretty good. But I love what plastic can provide as far as opportunity in making miniatures. It has a very large opportunity band that allows you to do some really fun and interesting stuff that can't be done in other materials. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah, I agree. That strength of the red tones really brings out that Hell's Kitchen vibe. And you know, we could actually accentuate and play with that more. We could go back through and as we work on this, we could add more red glow. So like red light shining up. Things don't have to make sense. Things don't have to make sense. This is comic books. And there's lots of times, like you look at a comic book and you're like, that's the coolest thing in the world. And you start like actually looking, you're like, well, where's that red light coming from? That makes literally no sense. Or why is that foot drawn like that? That's not how feet work. But you know, and it's art. Like you can tell a fun story. So we can put red light glowing up from underneath, cast light from the bottom. I think I add a lot of drama and story to our Elektra. So we can do all kinds of fun stuff. And that's one of the fun things about miniatures is it provides you the opportunity to explore and tell your story that you want to tell, right? And that's why I think, you know, it's one of the goals of Marvel Crisis Protocol in particular is, you know, I've owned a comic shop and I've stood there arguing all the time about, well, what if, you know, Wolverine did have Mjolnir? Like, I mean, you can't do that in Marvel Crisis Protocol, but you get the idea. Rule of cool. 100%. Rule of cool. It's not cool. Why do it? Just apply that to life. Why not? Yeah, the struggle. How do I make this character look like they're flying, dynamic? And those are fun to overcome. Like a lot of times when somebody's like say when Josh drew his first pose for a miniature, you know, it's a crazy idea, right? And my first question was, well, how does it attach to the base, right? How's it attached to the base? Oh, suddenly the pose doesn't work. There's a lot of that discussion and a lot of really classic comic book poses. Of course we look at comic book covers and for inspiration, and stuff like that. And like there's a lot of like classic comic book covers that once you start like really breaking it down, they don't quite work for the 3D environment. They don't quite translate, you know. So they're good for they're wonderful covers, and they're perfect for that art form, but they might not translate to the miniature as easily or as successfully as one might think. Spider-Man is always a struggle. Spider-Man has all these beautiful, iconic poses, but they're all swinging from something above. And so you always get into like some, you got to figure out how that's actually connected to the base. How does that connect to, you can't just have him by a web line. The web line is too thin and not strong enough to hold. So you got to have like something else to give weight and support. That's something we learned pretty early on. Is you sometimes need a little more weight and support. We learned lessons from doing Storm, which led to Scarlet Witch, which led to other things. So you learn these lessons by building and innovating and creating iterations off of the lessons learned. It goes back to that lessons learned thing. So we want to have dynamic poses, and then we want a breadth of poses. It's like the rules, right? When Pagani and Schick talk about development, and you want that bell curve as tight as possible. It's kind of like that with poses as well, right? You need places for the eyes to rest on your canvas. And the miniature line, I think of the miniature line as the canvas. So you need places for the eye to rest. So you have like these wonderful stoic poses as like Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, her small form, or Luke Cage, standing there strong and defiant. But then you go to the other end of it, right? Like, and then you have the bell curve, right? It goes up, and you have like, maybe Taskmaster lunging forward, dodging something, right? And then to the top of the bell curve, right? You got your bell curve, is things like, your Wanda Maximoffs and your Elektras and stuff like that. So it creates this beautiful, dynamic spectrum for the heroes to live in and to do a lot of different things, and lets us explore a lot of different options. And that's the real fun of it, right? Is like, and hopefully you enjoy the ride as well, obviously, is like exploring all the different options and what can be done, and just a big collection of wonderful Marvel hero and villains. Villains are just misunderstood heroes. They're the heroes of their own story. But heroes and villains that all come together to create a cohesive story. It's kind of like the base rubble. There's a crisis going on in the city, and the Hulk makes a mess. So all those little rocks and stuff, that's all just the Hulk. Just smashing up, 85th Street or whatever. Did I make any sense at all? Yeah, a lizard exploding from the sewer. Holy cow! Oh my gosh! When we did that one, that was definitely one of those like, also one of those like, can we do this? Like, is this ridiculous? Like, and it's just like it just had to be done, right? I think that was the very first lizard pose that I drew as well. Like that didn't even go through iterations. That, like, many times some of these poses go through iterations, right? It's like, well, what if we did this? Okay, well, that's pretty cool. But can we turn the head? Can we add this? Can we create a more compelling this or that? Like, oh, that's a neat idea, but this, right? And I think the lizard is definitely one of those. It was just like, it just was drawn, and everybody went, okie doke, let's do that. A little green add to the face. Green over red makes brown. Makes for a darker skin tone. Makes for those wonderful shadows with lots of depth and presence. A little blendy blend. Oops, sorry. I can't think of any other lizard pose that would look nearly as good. That's always a fun challenge, actually, to set and think about a pose you did, and then be like, well, how do we top that? Like, not gonna lie, definitely thought about how do you top the lizard before, I mean, look at the Rivals panel, Dr. Octopus, right? Like, okay, well, we did Doc Ock. Okay, how do we make Doc Ock even cooler? And then you do that one, right? You do that wall. Okay, so walls are interesting, Shane, by the way. So this gets into philosophical, like, oh my God, now I got too many topics, and it's like 1:44. What was the first topic I was on before Shane said that? Dr. Octopus. Okay, don't let me forget Dr. Octopus. So crawling up a wall, that gets into philosophical, like, if you crouch a miniature, they look very small and they lose their presence. You lose their torso, you lose their chest, right? And then if you put a wall on the base, what happens is you lose some of your viewing angles in something that is viewed from multiple angles. When you're playing your opponent's viewing it from the front. When you're playing the miniature, you're viewing it from the back. And when you're standing there arguing with your two friends that are playing the game and you're not playing the game, but you have all the tactical advice in the world, you're viewing it from the side. So you get into like blocking, view angles, and you don't have to, you can break rules. Rules of art are always meant to be broken. Like, as long as you're smart about it. You got really, you can't do it every time because then it becomes just contrived. But that's a different topic. So you got to be real careful with walls. You don't want to block up too much. Not saying you can't do them. It's just you got to be real clever. I just lost my brush. You got to be real clever about it. Okay, Doc Ock, right? So Doc Ock was definitely one of those ones, like, after we got, after we were like, oh, look at this Doc Ock. Oh, he's so cool looking. I definitely was immediately like, how do we make it better? Like, how do you top that Doc Ock from the Rivals pack? Like, there's no way you top that Doc Ock from the Rivals pack. Maybe someday we will. Who knows? Maybe someday we will. All right, kids, I'm off the rails. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm just having fun painting this Elektra. I'm going to be real honest. Yeah, clear plastic fight stands is definitely a, like a studio design philosophy. that's something that, you know, I definitely wanted to avoid from the very beginning, and you know, Schick was on board with, and they're Marvel heroes. They have powers. They have all this kinetic action and all that stuff. And designing for flight stands is sort of a pain in the butt. And I do mean that literally, because that's typically where the peg goes. So, you know, I just always felt it was sort of, what's the word I want to use? I don't know the word I want to use. Help me out with a word, chat. It was just sort of a disservice to the characters to kind of just rely on flight stands and just blop a character up on a clear flight stand, and then we have to generically manufacture some artificial place on the human body that it would, you know, translate well and look good. And it bucks the trend, right? And like, you know, that's sort of goal, is to kind of buck the trend sometimes and do what was unexpected. And, you know, sometimes you don't want to see the unexpected, and you gotta get used to it. And then it becomes the expected, and then you gotta do the unexpected again, and then it just becomes a vicious cycle. Tony knows. He's a child of the 90s. Oh, reached 13. I started paying attention to AMG when you acquired X-Wing. Been impressed by all the accent and character you put into your MCP image. I'm super happy to have such a talented and creative team behind my favorite game. Awesome. We are excited as well. Thank you. Where's adding weird colors? I'm like putting some like weird green in the skin now. I'm arting it up, and I apologize. We're not getting through Elektra in a day. What is wrong with Dallas? I'm gonna get the meeting after this meeting, or after this, be like, dude, what was that about the flight stands for 30 minutes? Calm down. I was on a roll. There's no stream on Thursdays currently. We haven't been doing Thursday streams. We are still practicing some important safety measures here at the Atomic Mass HQ. So currently no streams on Thursdays. We're currently doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays is you can join Mr. Wilczek. He streams on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, you can join me, Dallas. I stream on Wednesdays. And we are always joined by our wonderful and marvelous production team of Tony and Summer. That you can hear chortling in the background, or getting excited when I mention odd time signatures. Tony, not allowed to have a microphone kind of check.
You said I could have one.
I mean, that was just platitudes. Oh, there's always something to cut. There's always something to cut. Like, who said that? Release. The greatest songs in the world have outtakes. Yeah, Pagani and Schick joined on some community podcasts and did some really great interviews. You should go check those out. I don't have the name of the podcast directly off the top of my head. I'm sure you can find them. We very much consider ourselves part of the community. So always happy to engage and, say what we can about what we can when we can. Because let me tell you, you don't got to believe me either. You ain't got to believe me. Who am I? But let me tell you, and I'm going to say it like my friend Ray would. Let me tell you. Every employee here at Atomic Mass is so enthusiastic and excited about the projects we work on. And it is fantastic to come into work every day. Now I'm gushing, and I apologize. Tony's seeing the sensitive side of me that he never gets to see. But I don't think there's a single person on the whole team that isn't super enthusiastic, excited, and just straight up bowled over by what we work on every single day. So we are excited, and we love showing stuff when it's ready. And I know it's always just like, well, when's it ready? And sometimes the answer is it's ready when it's ready. Like, that's just the way it works. You can't lick the beaters till the cake is baked. That's not true. That's a terrible analogy. You totally lick the beaters before you bake the cake. You can't frost the cake until the cake is baked and cooled. That's a terrible analogy too, although highly accurate.
It was closer than the beater thing.
Yeah. Now I just want a cake batter beater. That's what I'm just gonna have for lunch. I know Marco brought me a gyro and it's been sitting here the whole time and I'm dying. Like, 'cause it smells so delicious, but I'm just like, let's go get cake batter. Can we just get cake batter somewhere? I do not have any information on playtest applications. That is being done by development, and they will reach out if and when they reach out. I think that's definitely a no news is news kind of, like, sometimes no news is news. So that's something we gotta learn in life. Sometimes no news is news. There's some little tiny dots. Just a little red kick. Doop doop doops on the bottom just to give form and function. Oh, y'all about to kick me off. Oh, there was a question about the bass. I can't remember what it was. I didn't quite catch it.
Is that her base from the package, or did you make some modifications?
This is her bass from the package. Outside, I added a little bit of like little I'm going to lift that up just ever so slightly. Am I still on there good? So like I added a little bit of gribbly gribble. Like, this transitional place is like, once again, this is like kind of like we get into production and pull angles and drafting and undercuts and blah, blah, blah. So like, sometimes we just make like a very simple, like tactical element. Sometimes we add a very complex one, but that transitional place between the rubble and where it has fallen on the city streets of New York during this terrible crisis that is occurring all around them. Sometimes I like to blend that out with like a little extra. So I think that brick, I'm just going to mark it. That brick, and then like this little gravel that's just a little extra that I threw on there to create a transition. Like I think that's like a good, it's like one of the things, once again, go back to Main Extravaganza. So many wonderful paint streams and hobby streams that we do over the Main Extravaganza. You should always check those out. You should always go back and check those out on our YouTube because there's some wonderful knowledge there. We did a whole basing one. But like something like, let's say Wolverine. Wolverine is just standing on like sort of like a little chunk of rock, right? And, there might have been more to that at one point and it was cut for whatever reason or, to make it simple or frame space or, who knows? I can't remember everything. But you're telling a story about a crisis, right? Your Marvel Crisis Protocol. One of the things you do is you pick your crisis cards. There's a terrible alien event going on in the city, and at the same time, some senators are loose that you have to save. Like, it's chaos, havoc, bedlam, and mayhem all around, right? So maybe that little rock doesn't quite tell a story for you. You can take a little frame from the miniature frame. You can buy some wonderful like little bricks. You can get some gravel from like different train and hobby shops, something, and you can add a little bit to that. Maybe add like a bit of Sentinel from the Crash Sentinel terrain or something, and you can up that storytelling, right? I always say a miniature is a starting point of your story, right? So if you want to accentuate it, you should accentuate it. If you want to up the story, you want to tell a little bit different story, up the story, tell a little bit different story. That's the fun and the wonderful palette or canvas in which you get to paint on when it comes to Marvel Crisis Protocol. Is that it? Are you kicking me? You stood up. So I'll turn off this light. Nope, I'm going to leave it like that. How's that look? Does that look pretty good? It looks totally good, right? Oh, there we are. So remember, check us out. I'm going to try to turn it off. So remember, check us out on every Tuesday and Wednesday currently. We'll be back to Thursday streamings. 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for some wonderful hobby videos, and hang out, chat, ask us fun questions. Who knows, you might hear about my Euro again. And for all the latest news, information, and announcements, be sure to check us out on Instagram, Atomic Mass Games, on Instagram and Twitter, because that's where all the good stuff happens, and that's where BK tells you all the information. And then you come here to hear about the in-depth stuff. Like, that's the way it works. It's like a cycle. It's really cool. So until, what's today, Wednesday? I forgot what day it is. So until Tuesday, join us back. We'll see you next time, and go be the heroes you want to be. Bye. Now I'm going to stand here awkwardly until Summer turns the camera away from me and I make this song and look weirdly.